All right, so get this. A woman's on Reddit wondering like why her partner of 5 years won't propose.
Yeah, that's a familiar story, isn't it?
Totally. But here's the kicker. They already have 2 kids and a house together.
So they basically built a whole life together, but haven't sealed the deal with marriage.
Exactly. And it's kind of sparking this debate about like what even is marriage in the 21st century.
Right, it's not automatically the next step after you hit certain milestones anymore.
So let's break down this situation. We got this 24-year-old woman, been with her 29-year-old partner for 5 years. Like we said, they have the kids, the house, the whole 9 yards.
Seems like a solid foundation.
You'd think, right.
Yeah.
But she's really craving that official commitment, that proposal.
And he's all one-day classic.
Oh, yeah. Vague promises galore. No wonder she turned to Reddit.
Oh, Reddit. The internet's judge and jury, always ready to weigh in.
And did they ever, the comments are a total whirlwind.
I bet a lot of put a ring on it mixed with run for the hills.
Spot on. But the really interesting part is how divided the responses are, like men versus women.
Oh, yeah, that's a recurring theme in these relationship debates.
For sure. A lot of the guys are coming at it from this super practical angle.
Cost-benefit analysis of marriage.
Exactly. Like they're worried about getting shredded financially if things go south.
The old why buy the cow argument pops up, too.
It does. And there's definitely a sense of fear around like alimony and losing assets in a divorce.
Yeah, that fear's real for a lot of guys.
But then you have the women in the comments bringing in the emotional side.
Right. For them, it's about that feeling of security knowing your partner is all in.
Exactly. And they're emphasizing that whole if he truly loved her thing.
Like marriage is the ultimate proof of commitment.
Yeah, and it really highlights how differently people view marriage.
Totally. It's not just a societal expectation anymore. It's a choice, a weighted one at that.
Makes you wonder, like, are the incentives even the same for men and women?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is, but hold on a sec. We're getting super focused on the guy's side of this.
Right, like is he dragging his feet? Is he afraid of commitment? All that.
But what about her? What's making her so set on getting married?
Yeah, she's the one pushing for it. What's her motivation?
Well, she mentions feeling more secure, wanting that solidified family unit.
The matching last names thing?
Yep. And even practical stuff like next of kin worries and emergencies.
Those are valid points.
Totally. And she straight up says, money's not the driving force.
Interesting considering how much the Reddit responses focus on finances.
It is. So is it purely symbolic for her?
Like a validation of their relationship?
Maybe? Or is it societal pressure? You know, that whole happily ever after fairy tale.
Could be a mix of both. Plus, you got to consider her position as a mom of 2.
Right. If they split, her financial security could be seriously impacted.
Exactly. We tend to jump to judging her without considering those vulnerabilities.
It's easy to get caught up in the he won't commit narrative.
But there's a whole other side to her story.
For sure. And it makes you realize there's a huge communication breakdown here.
Oh yeah, she's clearly yearning for marriage.
And he's all vague assurances instead of actually addressing her concerns.
Textbook communication fail.
Instead of open dialogue, it's all hints and assumptions and avoidance.
Not exactly a recipe for relationship success.
Nope. And this lack of communication could signal deeper issues.
Like, are they even comfortable talking about their needs and fears?
That's the million-dollar question, because this isn't just about a proposal anymore.
It's about whether they can communicate effectively about anything important.
And if they can't talk about something as big as marriage, what else are they sweeping under the rug?
That's a thought-provoking question, makes you wonder about the state of their relationship as a whole.
It does make you think, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And you know what else is interesting? This whole thing about common law marriage.
Oh yeah, a bunch of Redditors brought that up.
Right, because it could totally apply to this couple.
Could you break that down for us? Like what exactly is common law marriage?
Okay, so in some states, if you live together and present yourselves as married.
Like you tell everyone you're husband and wife even though you never had a ceremony?
Exactly, and you meet certain criteria like shared finances and living together for a while.
You can actually be legally considered married.
Yep, it's called common law marriage, and it means you have the same rights and responsibilities as a formally married couple.
So even without a wedding or a certificate, they might already be in a legal marriage.
Depending on their state and circumstances, yeah.
And if they split up, things could get messy, like with asset division.
Oh, for sure. It wouldn't be a simple breakup. It'd be more like a divorce.
Wow. So it's not just about romantic feelings. There's a whole legal side to this.
Absolutely. And this couple might not even know about common law marriage.
Makes you wonder how many people are in a similar situation.
Right. Unknowingly entering into a legal agreement they don't understand.
It's a good reminder that we can't just rely on assumptions.
Nope. Got to be informed about the legal stuff, especially when kids and assets are involved.
Speaking of the Reddit comments, some of them were pretty intense.
Oh, yeah. Reddit can be brutal.
Like one guy said, men often get shredded in divorce proceedings.
Ouch, a bit harsh, but it shows the fear some men have.
Totally. Like marriage isn't just about love. It's a contract with serious consequences.
And sometimes those consequences can be pretty scary.
But there were also comments that went against that whole never get married thing.
Oh, yeah, like those even George Clooney got married arguments.
Exactly. Even notorious bachelors settle down sometimes.
It proves that everyone's different and people change their minds.
One woman shared her story about how her husband was anti-marriage after his divorce.
But then they ended up happily married.
It just goes to show that relationships are complex.
And our views on marriage can evolve over time.
This whole conversation is making me realize how much we oversimplify things.
Like marriage is this big, complicated thing with so many layers.
It's not just about wanting or not wanting to get married. There's so much more to it.
It's about emotions, societal pressure, legal stuff, finances. It's all intertwined.
So if this couple was listening right now, what advice would you give them?
I'd say focus on the root of the problem, not the proposal itself.
Like, figure out why she's so set on marriage and why he's hesitant.
Exactly. They need to have an honest conversation about their needs and fears.
And maybe a therapist could help if they're struggling to communicate.
Yeah, a neutral third party can be super helpful.
Once they have that safe space, they need to really listen to each other.
She needs to explain why marriage is so important to her.
And he needs to be upfront about his reservations.
It's not about changing each other's minds, it's about understanding.
And even if they don't agree on marriage, at least they'll get a deeper understanding of each other.
Which is crucial for any healthy relationship.
So it all comes back to communication.
It always does. Communication is key.
Whether you're married or not, being able to talk openly and honestly is essential.
Absolutely. It's how you navigate life's ups and downs together.
This whole conversation is making me see marriage in a new light.
Right. Like it's not just a tradition anymore. It's a choice people are making more deliberately.
Yeah, and it's definitely not the automatic next step it used to be.
It's more about personal fulfillment now and people figuring out what works for them.
And that comes with its own set of challenges.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Navigating relationships is trickier than ever.
We need to be super clear about what Toby you want and also try to understand our partner's perspective.
And be willing to talk about the tough stuff, even if it's uncomfortable.
It's like we're making up the rules as we go along.
In a way we are, and this Reddit thread is a perfect example.
It's like a snapshot of how much things are changing.
It also shows how important it is to know the legal and financial side of things.
We can't just rely on what our parents did or what we see in movies.
Nope. We have to be informed and make decisions that protect ourselves.
So if you're out there listening and relating to this couple's story,
ask yourself what's really important to you in a relationship.
Like, what are your non-negotiables and what does commitment mean to you?
And are you being honest with your partner about all that?
Those are some heavy questions, but super important ones.
Yeah. And hopefully this deep dive has given everyone some food for thought.
It's definitely made me think about my own relationships.
That's what we're here for, to spark those conversations.
So to wrap things up, it seems like marriage isn't going anywhere.
But it's definitely evolving.
People are choosing it for different reasons and approaching it in new ways.
And communication is more important than ever.
Whether you're married single or somewhere in between.
Being able to talk openly and honestly is essential for any healthy relationship.
Well said. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into marriage expectations and communication.
We covered a lot of ground today.
Hopefully it sparked some interesting conversations out there.
And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Voices of the Soul for more deep dives like this.
And check out Shauna Pelage on YouTube for even more content about relationships and life.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll catch you next week for another deep dive into a new topic.